Hello everybody, Vanessa here from NeuroTitans. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with us. Today we're going to talk about motivation and how important it is for athletes. See, motivation can be extrinsic or intrinsic, and we're going to elaborate a little bit on these terms and how they impact athletes. Let's start with extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is motivation we find outside of us. So this can actually be factors such as money, social status, things that are motivating, that are external to the athlete. The compensation that this athlete is going to have, the prestige that this athlete is going to have, those are all extrinsic motivators that do help us achieve certain goals. Extrinsic motivation can also be, for instance, applause, right? From our public, cheers from our public. All of these factors contribute to the motivation of our athletes. On the other side, intrinsic motivation, which the research shows to have a stronger correlation with success in an athlete, is how we feel when we accomplish something. So as athletes, we have certain goals. We want to surpass certain limitations in our skills. We want to practice to really get into that particular skill that's going to propel our performance in games and practice. But all of those factors make us feel a certain way. When we score, we feel a certain way. When we contribute to the success of our team, it helps us feel a certain way intrinsically within us, inside of us. And this is actually what the research shows to be most important. Coaches, listen, most important. How do your athletes feel when they accomplish something? When they elevate and upgrade their skills? How are they feeling? Right? And it's that community. And how does that community of athletes or that community of people who support those athletes feel? Because, I've been to games and I've been to practices where you just get this beautiful energy and, the fans are motivated, the athletes are motivated, you see both teams extremely motivated, and it creates this beautiful atmosphere. So that intrinsic motivation would focus on the things that help us feel a certain way. So intrinsic and extrinsic motivation complement each other, obviously. They're beautiful factors of being an athlete. So what do we need to do to keep our motivation? That is something that can sometimes be a little hard. We can start being motivated. We can say, hey, I really want to be a basketball player. And we can be so motivated in the beginning and practice every day, and then our motivation dwindles and we stop doing something. So very important to note, how do we keep our motivation? So that's what we're going to talk about. How do you get to keep your motivation as an athlete? There's a couple of things. Number one, discipline. What does that mean? That sometimes that word gets thrown out there and we're like, ooh, we have a negative connotation to discipline. But discipline is just doing something consistently. And what better discipline than self-care? An athlete must be disciplined in their self-care in order to achieve high performance goals. That means that you as an athlete, you're taking care of yourself as you're achieving all these goals, and you don't neglect these very important health factors because they do contribute to our health. Now we know that doing and performing athletic skills helps our health because we're exercising, we're engaging our body, we're engaging our brain. Oh my God, our brain is wonderful because it has to be on task. And our brain and our mind also need that self-discipline. Now, how do we know that we are being disciplined correctly, either by ourselves, maybe by a coach, or maybe by a parent, maybe by a mentor, maybe by someone who is motivating us and letting us know you need to take care of yourself? There's a couple of factors that we included in our self-care assessment for you to look at. Factors that affect you physically, emotionally, socially. Things that affect you as an athlete, because athletes do have to have a certain regimen of self-care habits that turn into routines so that their performance can be on top. And I invite you to take that self-care assessment that we included in this program so that you are aware of specifically where your self-care is and how to achieve that discipline. A lot of our program has to do with self-awareness. As you become self-aware of the things you need to be more disciplined in, hopefully you can incorporate those things within your routines and your daily habits. Another very important factor of motivation is self-talk. Self-talk is our internal dialogue with ourselves. So, as an athlete, what are you telling yourself about your performance? Are you your biggest cheerleader? Are you your biggest fan, letting you know that you can do this, you can achieve this, this is easy, we're gonna get it, we're gonna do it? Are you your biggest supporter within you? Because self-talk and this internal dialogue that we have can really make a difference. It is important that we give ourselves positive messages, even in the midst of losing a game. We might see the scoreboard and we might not be in the lead, but it is still important to give ourselves positive messages. We can catch up, we can do this, game's not over, my performance needs to improve in this moment. See, these messages can make the difference between our team giving up or our team continuously trying to do and perform their best, no matter the circumstances of the game or practice. So coaches and parents out there and athletes out there, we need to install positive messages and affirmations into our team, into our athlete, so that those positive messages can rekindle in the midst of their athletic performance in those moments in games and practices that are so vital. So, self-care, number one, self-talk, and the result will be positive behaviors. And these positive behaviors, when they accumulate, they bring an enormous effect on the performance of our athletes, and they are able to maintain motivation. See, we can know when we're losing motivation when our self-discipline dwindles and our self-care and our self-talk start to lose its potency, it starts to lose its consistency. And if we're able to catch ourselves when we're doing this, then we're able to recover by simply noting and becoming aware. So I advise and suggest that the tool of self-care assessment is consistently done. You want to do this on a monthly or weekly basis, depending on where you're at as an athlete or where your team is at. You want to start incorporating and evaluating these, and you want to give these to each member of your team, because the more discipline and the more self-care we have within our team, the better they're going to be as far as their concentration levels, the better stress management they're going to have, and the more motivated your team is going to be. So, check out this self-care assessment, be as honest and thorough and objective as possible, and see where your team or your skills are at. This is my invitation to you. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I wish you the best of luck on this journey.